It's TA with MK. It's TA with MK. Gents and ladies, no time to waste. Don't be afraid, it's time to trade. Let's start your brains like high-speed trains. Storm these games like hurricanes. It's time to save this herd this days. Put on your cape and learn the phrase. It's TA with MK. It's TA with MK. Well, hello there. Welcome back to TA with MK. My name is McKay, and we have another video for you today about, what is this video about? I already forgot. Oh, how to use TradingView for a beginner. Yeah, so this is going to be a longer one, but if you are new to TradingView, then it should be helpful. So sit back and enjoy. TradingView, how to use for beginners. Let's go. Yo, I get a lot of questions on how to use TradingView. I just want to let you know that I have a video linked in the description that if you haven't watched already, you'll want to watch first. It's how to set up your charts for the first time. I believe it's called First Time Chart Setup. Go ahead and watch that if you haven't watched it, and then come back and watch this full-length tutorial for beginners. This video shouldn't be overly long, but here's what we are going to go over in the video. If you'd like to pause and take note of the timestamps, then you can jump around if needed. As mentioned in the previous video, when you first go to TradingView.com, you'll be greeted with a screen like this. We're going to go ahead and click where it says Search Markets, and we're going to type BTC for Bitcoin, and we're going to use the USDT pairing, and click this Binance chart on top. As mentioned before, if you watched the previous video on how to set up your chart, you should be greeted with a screen that looks similar to this. So just some of the basic functions. If you double click anywhere in the empty space, that will hide your indicators, and you can double click again to unhide your indicators. Over here on the right where you can see price, if you put your mouse in there and click, you can compress or decompress price action vertically. Down here along the bottom where it shows the years and the months, you can click and drag left or right to compress or decompress your price horizontally. Over here on this left toolbar, we can see a bunch of icons for tools. We'll go over those a little bit later, but that's where all your tools you'll use are. Up here on the top, this is where you can add indicators. Right here where it says BTC USDT, if you click there, we can find a different coin and a different pairing. So let's just say we wanted to switch over to like XRP USDT. Then I can do this Binance one. Now I'm on a different chart. Where it says 12-hour, I can click and change the time frame. If I want to zoom in more to a 15-minute chart, same thing, I can still click and drag that out. Now let's say I wanted to adjust the size of these indicators down here and how much screen they're taking up. If you take your mouse here by the volume and just slowly go down, a different icon will pop up you can use to click and drag that up or down. So this is making the area that the MACD takes up bigger. I can go down below the MACD, same icon will pop up, I can drag that up. Go down below the RSI, same thing. If I wanted them to be bigger or smaller within the space, I can go to the right side of whichever indicator, click and drag up or down to make it bigger or smaller. Then you can also click out in the area and center it. Same with the RSI, up or down, the stochastic RSI. On the right side over here on this toolbar, we just have a couple things you want to be familiar with. We will show you how to set alerts, and this is where you can manage those alerts. And then down here where this little square is that says Object Tree, if you click that, it opens up a menu. This menu is useful if you've somehow got your indicators out of order or you want to hide or unhide an indicator. There is this eye icon next to each of the indicators. You can go ahead and click that to hide it, re-click it to unhide it. You can adjust the order in here. And if you ever make a change that was unintended, you can always click Control-Z to undo the change. We can go ahead and click that square and close that menu again. Another useful thing up here on the top left, there's this little settings icon. If you click that, I like to have autosave on. It just means every 5 minutes it's going to save my charts. Some people prefer that to be off though. They like to save manually. So if you toggle that off, you'll just have to remember to come in here every so often and save your layout. Also, if you want to change a basic chart setting like the background color, you can do that one of two ways. You can either click this settings icon up here on the top right, or you can right click anywhere on the chart in the empty space and go down to where it says settings. The defaults should be good, especially if you just followed what we put in the previous video on how to set up your charts. But let's just say you wanted to change the background under appearance from black to more like a little bit bluer gray, I guess you could say. We can click OK, and now it's not black, it's a little bit lighter color. One last basic thing to go over here is up here on the top right where it says unnamed. We can click in that area and then we can rename this chart setup whatever we want. So let's just say we name it like CBC charts. I can click save. Let's say for some reason you wanted to have another chart set up with different indicators than what we use in group. You can click that same drop down box and go to new chart layout, and it's going to give you a default chart with all the default settings. And then you can name that something different, and then you can jump back and forth between the two by clicking the drop down box, clicking load chart layout, and going to whichever layout you want. So we're going to go back to CBC charts, and now we're back. Next, we're going to go over the favorites toolbar and some of the common tools you'll want to add to that. To do so, we're going to head over here to this toolbar on the left-hand side. We're going to start up at the top right below settings. And right next to any one of these tools, there's a little right arrow that if you click opens up more options. And next to cross, there's a little star. We're going to go ahead and click that star to add it to our favorites toolbar. And it's going to create a little palette out here that as we add each tool to it, it will make a palette with all the tools in one place for you to access. Now we're going to briefly go through and add all the tools that we commonly use in group. So we're going to start with this little line and click the arrow next to the trend line tools. And we're going to put a star next to the trend line. We're going to put a star next to the horizontal line and the horizontal ray and the vertical line. Go to the next one down, click that arrow. We're going to put a star next to fib retracement and trend-based fib extension. We're going to go down another one. We're going to put a star next to the brush, the rectangle, the ellipse, the path, the curve, the triangle, and the rotated triangle. Rotated rectangle. We're going to go down one more. Next to the T, we're going to do the text. We're also going to do this call out and the arrow marker. We're going to skip the next one, go down one below that, and we're going to do the date range and the price range. Then you can go ahead and click back out in the empty space. Now keep in mind you can change the order of these tools within this palette at any time just by clicking on something and dragging it to a different place. Sometimes it's nice to have the tools used the most, maybe on the left or right. For example, I put the text tool over here on the left because I use that a lot. Maybe the cross next. Maybe you want to keep all the shapes together but in a certain order you like, and so on and so forth. And you can also move this palette at any time around your screen by going over here on the left where the hand will pop up and you can just drag it to a good spot. I actually like to keep mine up here kind of on this top toolbar so it's out of the way of my charting. Now we're going to double click and hide our indicators and just briefly go over how to use each of these tools. I'm going to drag it back down here to where I can see them all clearly. Now I've briefly arranged the tools on my toolbar to be in the order that I prefer. And we're going to go ahead and start with this cross. Anytime you're on the cross, you can drag your mouse around and it will show you where you would place a line vertically or horizontally. You can also use it to click on the screen and drag a price around. Next, we're going to click on this trend line. Once clicked, you can click anywhere on your screen and it places one point, and you can drag the mouse around, click again at any time, and that will draw a trend line for you. We'll go ahead and hit the trash and delete that. Next is the text tool. We can click anywhere on the screen and it brings up a text box. We can type in CBC is awesome. We can change the text size to whatever we want and the color to whatever we want, and then click OK. We can then click on it and drag it around the chart to wherever we want. Next, we've got this call out tool. This can be useful if you're trying to make a note on something specific on your chart. So for example, I could click right on the end of this yellow 200 moving average and then drag out. I could put 200 moving average is curling down, and it just makes it easy for someone to see what you're trying to point out on your chart with this text. Next, we've got this brush tool. This is just an easy way to draw on your chart. Free draw, I guess you could call it. By default, it's black, it looks like. We want to make that yellow or something so we can see it a little better. But that's what that's used for. This arrow can be used in conjunction with like the text to point something out. So maybe rather than using that call out tool, I point with an arrow, and then I use the text tool to say 200 moving average is curling down. Okay, and I point that out that way. You can also use this path tool just to kind of show the path of something. So maybe you're trying to explain that price action swing from the bottom up here to the top to the bottom. Once you double click, that ends the path. Otherwise, if you just keep single clicking, you can make path go forever. Next up, the rectangle. It can be used for multiple things. You could use it to maybe highlight some words with a box. Maybe you use it to showcase your zone of support or resistance or something like that. And the rotated rectangle next to that I don't use as often. It's just a rectangle that's at an angle, so we won't go over that one. The next one is the ellipse. It's just a circle. You can click once and then twice and drag up or down. It makes a circle. Maybe you want to then drag and put that around something to highlight something specific. Next up, we've got this curve tool. This one's useful if you're trying to show maybe a double bottom or a high or low. Maybe you're indicating a double bottom, so you click the tool. You can just click, drag to a second spot. It's making a curve. Maybe you're going to use it to say, hey, this was a low, but so far this over here is a high or low, something like that. Then we have the horizontal line and the vertical line up next. Keep in mind that just by clicking somewhere on your screen, you can use Alt-H to draw a horizontal line and Alt-V to draw a vertical line. That is the shortcut. But you can also use these tools. You click on it, click anywhere on your screen, that's going to do a horizontal line. The vertical one, same thing, click, then anywhere on the screen, that's going to do a vertical line. The horizontal ray tool is another one I don't use that often, but it can be used to click on the screen somewhere and it will put a line to the right. So if you don't want a line across your entire screen, but maybe you're just trying to point out a specific price to put a note about that, you could use that tool for that. Almost finished. Now we have the date range and the price range tool. These are pretty self-explanatory. Date range, if you click and then click somewhere on the screen and then drag, it's just giving you the amount of bars or days have passed during that stretch. So let's just say we wanted to use that to see how many days from this swing low to this low over here. Okay, tells us how much. Same with the price range. Let's see if I just wanted to find out what percentage this has dropped from this top down to the bottom. Okay, 16.44%. Or maybe I want to know what this bottom up to this top was. That's what that's used for. And finally, we have the fib retracement tool and the trend-based fib extension tool. These are covered in length in a different video on how to use them, so we're not going to go over that here, but that is what they are. Now let's quickly make a chart, start to finish, using some of the common TradingView tools, and let's learn to post it online. Now before we get started, I just wanted to mention that down here on the bottom left of this toolbar, there is a picture of a trash can. Anytime you just want to clear your entire chart and start over, you can click that, and it will do just that. If it was an accident or something, you can always hit Control-Z to bring it all back. But I want to start fresh, so I'm going to go ahead and click that trash so that we have a fresh chart. I'm going to start by clicking up here on the top left where it says 15 minutes, and I'm going to change it to something like the 4 hours. And then I'm going to go ahead and drag it down on the right here and the bottom to kind of make sure I can see all of the price action clearly. First thing we did is we identified some lines of support and resistance and went ahead and indicated those using Alt-H or using the horizontal line tool. Next, I want to drag over and zoom a little bit more in on current price action so I can kind of look for some sort of a pattern or potential trend line that we can draw. Right off the bat, I can see that we were previously in some sort of a falling wedge, so I can use this trend line tool to kind of draw that out real quick. Use the trend line tool again to draw the downward trend line. And now I might even use that same tool to kind of indicate that we're in a little bit of what I would say is a rising channel, potentially. A couple touches on each side, so I can draw those out as well. Now I can go ahead and zoom back out just to maybe identify my stronger zones of support and resistance. I could use the rectangle tool if I would like to indicate some zones of support or resistance. In this case, I indicated some zones of support. Now we have a few different tools that we can use to indicate that the price action is below this 200 moving average, but I'm going to go ahead and click this call out tool and then click on the moving average and drag up. We're going to type in price action is below the 200 MA. And you're going to go ahead and click OK. Then maybe we want to indicate on the chart that this rising channel or potential rising channel has a 68% chance that it breaks to the downside. We could use this arrow to point at the bottom of the rising channel, then use the text tool to type 68% chance this rising wedge breaks lower. Maybe change the font to something like white so we can read it a little better. I could then use something like the fib retracement tool to show potential targets. I'm going to go from this latest swing high down to this recent swing low. If you ever need to visually change the order of something, for example, I have this red arrow and it's got the white lines going through it, but I want it to be on top, you can right click on it and go to visual order and click bring to front. And now that red arrow is on top. Now, because we have previous price action above our current price, I'm going to go ahead and actually click on this fib retracement tool and delete it. I don't actually want to include it on my chart just because it's kind of making a little too much noise. I'm just going to indicate that some of these upper resistance levels are going to be the targets. I've now went ahead and used the text tool again to add some potential entry idea areas down at lower support, as well as some targets at the upper resistance. I can put my mouse right here and click Alt-V to make a vertical line across the screen, and that could help me make sure everything's lined up properly and straight. When we're finished with this vertical line, we can of course click on it and then delete it. Next, we can use this price range tool to show what the potential profit gains are from my entry idea up to the top target, about close to 80%. I also included a red line here that I'm going to use as my stop loss. I changed it just to the color red so it stands out a little bit more. And then I'm going to put the word stop loss over that. And then I like to also use that same price range tool to show what the potential downside is to the stop loss if it gets hit. To put the finishing touches on this chart, I'm going to go back to my text tool and click out here. I'm going to go ahead and make it the biggest size and either white or yellow preferably. And we're going to type in what the coin is. This is XRP/USDT. And this is a 4-hour chart. Go ahead and center that above your chart. Now, before I show you how you post a chart like this to group, I want to show you that I added a couple other things, just taking advantage of some of the other tools we hadn't used yet. Up here where I have the curve tool, I indicated that back here in June, there was a big double bottom, and I noted that the last big double bottom led to 174% gains. I, of course, used the price range tool to show that. I'm also indicating over here that if it were to break down and hit my entry idea, that we could have another double bottom. We also have another video that goes over how to add news to your charts, but just as a finishing touch, I was able to locate some upcoming news for XRP that I was able to copy and paste to this chart. And then to post the chart to group is rather simple. What you want to do is up here under settings, ideally you want autosave to be on, and then sharing, you're going to go ahead and turn that on. That way when people click your link, they can actually see your chart. Then we're going to go over here to this little camera icon on the top right, click, and then down here where it says copy link to the chart image, if you click there, it's going to create a link for you. Now, this is a completely different chart, I realize, but either way, just wanted to show you now to post this to a group or to someone online, send it to an email, whatever it may be. You go up here to the little camera icon where it says take a snapshot, click that, go down to where it says copy link to the chart image. That's going to generate you a link. You could copy and paste that inside of an email you can send to someone. I'm going to use this Discord group as an example. If you right click and paste this, I can go ahead and hit enter. And now it's going to paste my chart to this group where other people could then come and click and look at my chart. Hey, good job. You made it. Take a deep breath and exhale. You just got done watching a fairly lengthy video on how to use TradingView for beginners. Remember to like, subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. It's